Hey all, welcome to September's Pickups video. For those that aren't familiar with what this is about, it's basically where I show off what I've acquired over the last month, whether it was online through an auction or a retailer or a local pickup through a video game store or even a garage sale or a thrift store. For those of you who saw last month's Pickups video, the format of this one's going to be a little bit different. Yeah, I'm going to go and describe everything that I got, but you're going to probably see a few more cuts and edits along the way, because I want to start reviewing some of these things as I get them in the event that they don't work or there's something wrong and I need to facilitate a dispute or return. Another note, I noticed after recording some of the footage that some of the audio had cut out. I'm not sure what happened, but I believe one of the cable adapters I was using just flaked out on me. As soon as I plugged the microphone directly into the camera, everything was working again, so I've got to go back and check everything. As such, some of the audio might seem out of sync or might not seem to match up with what I'm talking about on camera, and I really apologize for that. I know it can be a little annoying. It's annoying for me to go through the footage and see that most of what I was recording didn't work right, and I get frustrated pretty easily, so I'm with you guys. I apologize again. I will go pick up some new adapter cables, and hopefully next month's video won't have this problem. Anyway, let's see what I got. We're going to start with some of these smaller items first, such as this box here from Amazon, which I'm not quite sure what this is because I have another package from Amazon as well. Let's see. And in this box we have, oh yeah, replacement batteries. For those that don't know, a lot of the older video game systems that had save capabilities needed batteries in order to provide small trickles of power to the SRAM chip in order to preserve your game save. You know, for example, Legend of Zelda. You sit there, you get to a certain part of the game, you save it, turn it off, come back to it a couple of days later, you can pick up right from where you left off. A lot of these batteries, after 20, 30 some odd years, are starting to fail, and as such all your game saves are going to be lost. Now, you may not care about your data from 30 years ago, but let's say you wanted to pick up a game today and just try it out and play. You wouldn't be able to save it unless you replaced the battery. Now, these batteries, they're just your typical coin cell batteries, the same that you have in your key fob for your car, garage door opener, etc., except these have specific tabs soldered on to them as well, which means that you have to unsolder the old battery and solder the new ones in. There are other methods where you can swap out the battery for a battery holder, a little plastic device basically that the battery would clip into, and then you can just use your off-the-shelf batteries. But I'm going to try to stay as close to the original as possible. Just again, your simple basic battery. So I'm going to probably have a video in the future of me replacing one of these batteries, just so you guys can see what I'm talking about. Next thing I have is another shipment from Amazon, but I think I know what these are based on the feel. Yes. White DVD cases, or in other words, replacement cases for Nintendo Wii games. I've got a few games where the cases are kind of scuffed up, dirtied, I can't clean them, or maybe even just a little torn, so I'm going to try to swap those out with these. It's surprisingly hard to find these on Amazon at a decent price, so I only ordered 5 of them. Hopefully it'll be enough. At the very least, I'll have enough to replace what I currently own, and if I ever pick up anything in the future, I might just have to order more. We'll see. But yeah, they're just basic cases. So, oh, this one's cracked. That sucks. I have to contact the seller about that, see if you can't replace it. I know to replace just one, but I mean, I did buy these, and if I had bought these from a local store, I would have returned it. But it is what it is. For now, it'll do. Next thing I'll show off is just a pickup from a local video game store, and it's Rock Band for the Wii. Lego Rock Band, to be specific. This was released as a kid-friendly version of Rock Band, where the avatars are actually little Lego figures. Kind of cool. It's got artists in here, Blink-182, Bon Jovi, Counting Crows, Jackson 5. So they're, for the most part, family-friendly songs. This game did have the ability to download music off the Rock Band network, but it was set in such a way that it would flag anything that was over PG-13, I believe, or equivalent, and would block them. So I picked this one up because it was only a couple of bucks. Manual was in fantastic shape. Not that you need a manual for a game like this, but I've got it. And the disc itself was in pristine shape. So I'll just add that to my collection. And the next thing we're going to show is actually kind of a surprise in a way. I mean, I know what's in here, I believe, if this is the right box. It could be another box. And this will definitely be featured in a future video. But if this is what I think it is, and if the description on eBay was accurate, which I hope it was, and my expectations are somewhat in check, then this should be one hell of a find. This is also one of the reasons why I wanted to do this video, start recording these items as I get them, because if this isn't what I think it is, I'm going to dispute it. Packaged really well. And that's right, if you can see through the bubble wrap. But if you can't, I will take it off. And that is a Texas Instruments TI-99/4A. Now, for those of you who saw my intro video, you'll know that I owned one of these. The only difference is that this is the beige model, whereas I had the black model with some brushed metal accents. The only difference between the two, other than the color, is that this is a cost-reduced version. Now, it's functionally 100% the same, supports the same accessories and everything. It's just that this one, they've integrated some components, structured some things differently to save a little bit of money. This was billed as a new old stock, although the person did open it up, it seems, especially when they're showing off the auction. But they were showing off all the components and nothing was used. I mean, this is the RF adapter. Still packaged, still with the original twist tie. The double-sided tape still intact, which surprisingly hasn't crumbled considering the foam is over 30 years old. So there's this, because that's one of the ways you would connect it. What's in this little accessory box here? This is the power, though this one has rubber bands on it, so more than likely it actually was kind of used maybe, or maybe they use it for testing, I'm not sure. We'll see. I'm really, really, really interested in the condition of the computer itself. Stuck to the bottom. And here it is. It's definitely in pristine shape. I mean, if it is used, you definitely can't tell. I will definitely have a future video on the TI-99 and, its history and a teardown and things like that. And in fact, once I'm done with this video, I'm going to start recording for that video so I can open it up and make sure everything inside is in pristine shape. After so many years, is there a date code on here? No, there isn't. I'll have to deduce it from the serial number. But let's say this came out in 1984. It's over 30 years old. So there's a decent chance that the capacitors might have started to leak. And if there's a battery inside, which I forget if there is or not, but if there's a battery inside, that almost definitely started to leak too. It'll have to be replaced. Because if not, it could damage the components inside. Let's see, what else do we have? We have 1-year limited warranty. Well, pretty sure I can't claim this. And then beginner's basic, which I very, very briefly went over basic in the intro video, and I'm not going to bore you with that now. I might go over it in the TI video. Maybe I'll even write a couple of programs, or at least try some of the ones that are in the book here. Make sure everything is working. So there's that. Really excited about this, though. Kind of bummed out about the power adapter not being in the original shape, but again, my guess is that they probably plugged it in, turned it on to test it, so that they could verify that it worked before they sold it. I don't know. I'll have to contact the seller and see what happens with that. But the box is in way better shape than the Commodore 64 was that I got. That's for sure. So there's that. Oh, packing peanuts. That's never fun. They get everywhere, and you find them like 10 months later. But I think I know what this is, and it's exactly what I thought it was going to be. If you can tell by these joysticks, this is an Atari 2600. Way more joysticks than I thought I was going to come with. But hey, I'm not complaining. They're in good shape too. Which means that this has to be the Atari 2600 console over here. Carefully. And it is. How's it run with the plastic? It's definitely dirty, but I don't see any major scratches or anything. It's most likely a pet owner, though. There's definitely dog hair or some kind of hair in here. Hopefully not human. Kind of wish it was daylight. I'd take it outside and dust it off. What is this? 2600 remote control joystick. Oh, that's right. The Atari had wireless joysticks available using an antenna. I think it was one of the first systems that had wireless controllers. And I do remember the listing now saying something about having wireless controllers, so that's kind of cool. Yep, here they are. Gigantic and bulky, because they had to contain extra hardware and batteries and things like that. Don't worry, I'll unwrap all of these individually and we'll show everything off. And there were a ton of games for this thing too. But what else oh wow. Some of these games have the manuals with them. This might be a longer video than I thought. This one came in a nice little box. Storage case. And here, a different Atari storage case with more games in it. Man. Now I don't feel too bad about how much I paid for it. I think that's it, because I don't see anything else in here. Yep, nothing else in here. So let me get this gigantic box off the table and show off the items one by one. Let's take a look at these controllers first. And of course, as usual, I will have another video in the future going over the Atari 2600, including disassembly of the system, the controllers to make sure that they're in good shape, and maybe one or two games just so we can see what they look like inside. Definitely going to have to clean up the system, and I don't even know if I want to take it out of the bag at this point. But yeah, typical joystick. There's 5 of them in here. Still feels good. Clicks alright, moves alright. There's one that's... oh, this one's broken. Not really. Looks like it's just the rubber part of the handle came off. I can
get that back together after I take it apart. Same thing with this one here, it looks like, although this one is a little bit different than this one was. This might be a newer version of it. This still has to feed underneath, but I can take care of that after I take it apart. This one here feels alright too. Works for me. For now, anyway. Let's set these aside. I mean, I only need 2 of them. The Atari only supports 2 at once, I think. Although they might have had a multi-tap type adapter that would let you hook up 4, but even then, I don't know what 4-player games would have even existed, to be honest. I do kind of wish it'd come with the paddles. And for those of you that don't know what the paddle is, I'll try to put a picture of it up, but it's basically a little controller with a knob on it and 2 buttons on the side. So this is one of the wireless controllers. I've never actually used it before. This one also has the same problem with the rubber cap coming off, but feels alright, at least. Hopefully there's no batteries in here. Good, they did not leave batteries in there, which means that there's no corrosion. As far as I can tell, I'll have to open up. Although I'm kind of concerned with this battery terminal here. Half the plastic's missing. Might have to put some heat shrink over it, just to ensure nothing shorts out. But yeah, I never got to experience these wireless controllers, so that's going to be new. We'll see how reliable they are. Yeah, this one's in even better shape. Well, that's good. Leave that there. And of course the receiver module. Video's still recording from the overhead, so that's a good sign. That's all this is, basically. 2 joystick connectors. We'll open this up in the official Atari video as well. Antenna's still in good shape. Heck, I remember a lot of TVs from this era used this style of antenna, and almost all of them would be broken at some point. And of course the power brick, which I'll have to test the voltages on just to make sure, but it should be in good shape. I really don't want to take this system out of the bag because of all the pet hair and this dust that's on here. I want to really take it outside and give it a few spurts of air and before I even do anything with it. But I can tell that the wood grain finish on it is wearing out a little, which after this many years I'm not surprised. There's some sort of orange like substance here, and I don't know if that was like maybe orange paint around the outline or what. It's the same color orange as the switch labels, so I'm assuming there was something like that, so maybe I can try to find a match for that and go over it with a paintbrush or something. I don't know how detailed I want to get. The wood grain's going to be a little bit more difficult to replicate, so I might just get some contact paper and go over it. We'll end up covering up the Atari logo, but you know what? We'll have to deal with that later. But otherwise, it seems to be in good shape. Actually, we'll set that there because I have a boatload of games to go through. So we'll start with this just because it was closest to me. This is an unusual case because it looks like it just ejects them, so they... Huh. Interesting. I've never seen anything like this before. Oh, okay. I don't know if we can get this on camera, but I think this is how it's supposed to work, and pops your game out for you. So, well, let's take a look at the games. Missile Command. Pretty sure anyone that's ever played the Atari has played this game. Here's Breakout, which I don't remember if I mentioned it in my intro video. It might be in the longer, boring, extended version of the intro video, but when I bought my Atari 2600 originally, it didn't come with any games, so I bought a game with it, and it was Super Breakout. Unfortunately, this game requires a paddle controller, which means I won't be able to play it right away. Plus, the labels seem to be falling off. They got tape over them. Probably glue them back in place. One interesting note about the Atari cartridges is that they were afraid that people might bend or break the circuit board coming out, the edge connector. And so they have this little mechanism that when you plug the game into the cartridge slot in the console, there's little pegs that push down here and here, and then it releases this in order to expose the connectors. It also protects it from dust and things like that. Next, Kaboom. Played this game too. I think my cousin owned it. I don't think I had a copy. Another game that needs paddles, and again, I unfortunately don't have any. Maybe I can pick one up at one of the local retro stores. This game basically, as you can see by the cover art, there's a bad guy on top dropping bombs, and you got to try to catch him and keep him from exploding below. Label's not in great shape, but again, this game is 30 plus years old, so I'm not surprised. This one I might just need to print a new one out. Next is Donkey Kong. This game came out in 1982. It was released by Coleco. They also released a version for the ColecoVision, and they licensed this from Nintendo. And this was during a time where Nintendo didn't really have a console yet. They were working on one, but they didn't have one yet. Donkey Kong was super popular in the arcades, so people wanted to play it, and they figured, all right, we'll license this out to people and let them release it so that we can make a little money off of it. And they also used that as an opportunity to gauge the video game market and see if it's something they can get into. No cover art really other than just Donkey Kong, but I think I had Donkey Kong Jr. I don't remember if I had this one or not. But this is obviously a third-party cartridge. It is not, I don't think this is a sanctioned Atari cartridge for obvious reasons, but it wasn't that difficult to make a game for the Atari 2600. If you go back to the Kaboom cartridge, Activision, it's got these little ridges that you would use to get a better grip on it, but they look completely different from your traditional Atari cartridges. This is partly the reason why Atari failed in the at least in the US market, and it's because anyone could make games for it, and some of these games are good, but others were just complete garbage, and I don't know if I have any in my collection. I think I do, though. But because they're such garbage, people just gave up on buying things, so. The game is Outlaw. I had this game as well, too. I think my uncle got it for me at a garage sale pickup. It's just a shooting game, 2 players, or you play against a computer. You got 2 characters on screen, and whoever shoots first wins, I guess. Speaking of garbage games, at least in my opinion, Raiders of the Lost Ark. I got this as a gift. I think this was a new purchase. And I struggled for days just to figure out how to play it because the instructions... No, it wasn't a new purchase because of the fact that there was no manual. And I struggled for a few days to try to figure out how to play this stupid game. I could never get the character to move, and I thought my joystick was broken. I tried another one, it didn't work. I borrowed my cousin's, nothing. Turns out it works off of port 2, not port 1 for whatever reason. I don't know why they did that, but they did, because Atari. Next here is Miss Pac-Man. Miss Pac-Man for the Atari was a much better port of the arcade game than the original Pac-Man was.
Pac-Man was just... I mean, it was the only Pac-Man game you could play at home at the time, but it was not a good port. It was a popular seller on the Atari, though, but it was definitely not the best version of the game, and probably the worst, if not tied for the worst. Here is a game called Journey, which, yes, it's Journey the band. I don't know much about it, though. I never played it, but it's definitely not an official Atari game. It was a third-party release. It's called Journey Escape, and I'm assuming that it had to do with the release of Journey's Escape album. 1 or 2 players, joysticks, so that's cool. I will definitely have to try this one out because I'm kind of a Journey fan. And the last game in this little is Atlantis. I think I remember this game, but I couldn't tell you what it's about right now. Maybe I'll put some footage on screen if I get a chance, or maybe I'll just do it during the Atari video because that'll be better. I don't want this thing to be 3 hours long. But I did have this game, and again, it's another third-party game. It wasn't, made by Atari or anything, so it's got yet another cartridge style. So that's this particular carrying case, which is also really dusty, and I can tell because my eyes are starting to itch a little. So that's fun. I remember to pop Claritin before I open these things up. So we'll look at these next set of games, and this one is definitely tied. I can't just loosen it up easily. I'm not going to even bother, because, yeah. What do we have in this crazy tower of games? We've got Towering Inferno by US Games. Again, third-party cartridge. No idea what it is, but based on the cover art, I'm going to assume that you've got to try and rescue people from a burning building. That should be a fun one. Slot Racers. This is most likely slot car racing. I don't remember if I played this or not. Really don't. And then here's Video Olympics, using the paddle controller, of course. Although some of these games sound like they should work with a joystick, but I don't know. But it's got Pong and Super Pong, soccer, foosball, hockey, quadra Pong. Okay, really? You need 4 Pongs? Whatever. There's handball, volleyball, and basketball. Another one where the label is starting to come off a little bit, but that's okay, because I can always reattach that with adhesive. And there's a little gunk on there. I'll have to clean that up too. Next is Superman. I'm just going to guess right now that it probably isn't a very good game, just because a lot of these games at the time weren't very good. The superhero games were basically, hey, we need to capitalize on this really, really quick. Let's just whip something up and throw it out there. We'll find out, though. This one's label completely came off, but that's cool because it actually exposed the screws, so this will probably be the game that I take apart for the video. And this is Space Cavern. Don't think I ever played this one either. Made by Apollo Inc. Similar cartridge style to Kaboom, but it's not the same company, so... But this is the same company as Kaboom. This is Decathlon. It's a decathlon game. Apparently this one works with 1 to 4. Now I don't know if this would need some sort of multi-tap device, or I know some multiplayer games in the past would basically just, you'd split up on the controller, so 1 and 3 would use joystick 1 and 2 and 4 would use joystick 2. So technically you could be 1 and 3 and player 2 could be 2 and 4, but obviously they're probably hoping that you are on your honor and give it to other players. Not that anyone would care if you cheated. This is Space Jockey, and this is more than likely just one of these side-scrolling shooter games, space shooters, probably similar to Defender. Laid the groundwork for games like Gradius and R-Type. Again, not an official release, but by the same company, it seems, that made Towering Inferno. 16 game variations, which basically just means that they load the assets in differently. So next we've got 3D Tic-Tac-Toe. There's 8 one-player games and 1 two-player game. It's Tic-Tac-Toe. I'm not really sure what else I can say about it. This game, Combat. I did have this game, and it was fun. And it had a bunch of different varieties in it. So there were several tank games that were programmed in, and then there was Tank Pong, which, yeah, it's just like Pong, except the tanks are shooting the ball out instead of just a random dot appearing on screen with some lines acting as paddles. There was also Invisible Tank, which was your tanks were invisible, so you couldn't see each other. It was basically just shooting in the dark. There was Biplane, which was a plane version of that, and then Jet Fighter, same thing. This game was kind of fun to play when I was a kid. And what's next? Berserk. I played this game too, but I don't remember anything about it, which means I'm going to have to play it for the video just because. But I did have this game. I don't remember if I got it or if it was given to me, but whatever. And yet another Apollo-based game called Infiltrate. Guessing this is a spy-type game, judging by the cover art. Another label came off, but again, easy access to the screws so I can easily... Oh, this label looks like it's got a little bit of mold on it. Either that or some of the plastic rubbed off on it. This must have been kept in a attic or basement or garage or something. Nothing smells mildewy, but you never know. I think maybe I'll just print a new label just to be safe. Put that in the pile there. Oh, I didn't even realize it doesn't even have the top label, so I'll definitely have to print a label out for it. And the last one in this, Super Breakout. The very first game I purchased for my Atari 2600. This game was fun. Again, it needs paddles, which I'll have to locate. Unfortunately, this one is missing the top label, so I'm going to have to print that one out, and even the main label's kind of scuffed a little. I'll try cleaning it, but this will bring back some awesome memories once I get a paddle controller for it. So that's the next tower and the final tower, because the last set of games are in the bag, but there are more games in here than the tower, and there's some manuals and stuff, so this will be fun. Oh, and I see another gem in here that was just complete crap, and almost willing to bet it's what started to lead Atari downhill if it wasn't the catalyst. I'll have to do a little bit of history on it, but it is what it is. Let's put this on the side here. So, first we'll pull out is Air Sea Battle. I remember this, I just don't remember if it's because I owned it, played it, or just saw it in the catalog. It's got different variations of the game: anti-aircraft, torpedo, shooting gallery, Polaris, bomber, and Polaris versus bomber. So I'll have to give that one a shot. Next one is Home Run, which I'm going to bet is a baseball game. Because if it's not, then you got me. Don't think I ever played it, though. I don't think I played any sports games on the Atari. Oh, I take that back. There was a soccer game, Pele's Soccer, which I owned. My dad was, and still is, huge into soccer, so we sat at the store and we picked it up. And I think I probably played some boxing game or whatever. This one is a interesting cartridge shape by Mattel. Mattel did the Intellivision, but they also made some games for the Atari, and if I remember correctly, they released an add-on for the Intellivision which allowed them to play Atari 2600 games, because the hardware was similar inside. More in the Atari video, but getting back to it, I think this is a similar shape to the Intellivision games. This is Super Challenge Football. Now, I don't know if this means American football or soccer. It was made in Singapore, so who knows? I guess we'll find out. We have another interesting shaped game. Same one, it looks like. And this is Dark Cavern. Guessing it's some sort of adventure game. One thing I did notice is that this cartridge is actually clipped onto a little shroud. I wonder if this isn't a Intellivision game that they just reworked to make it work on the 2600. I'll have to do some digging around on this and find out, because if so, that would be pretty interesting. Next is Skydiver. I'm just going to guess you jump out of a plane, you got to either release the chute at the right time, or maybe you got to catch the little man. I don't know. Never played it. At least if I did, I don't remember much about it. Next game is called Worm War 1. Sorry. Yeah, you got me on this one. Judging by the cover art, it looks like it might be a Space Invaders type clone, or Galaga Galaxian clone. Never played it though, as far as I remember. And Frogger. I don't know. No, it was up. If you remember my Game Boy Color video, I mentioned that I had received a copy of Frogger for the Game Boy Color, and I mentioned that the last time I played it was on the Atari 2600, and well, here it is. Good old-fashioned Frogger. Again, another third-party release, but this actually wasn't a bad version of the game. Frogger is just a really, really, really basic game, so it's kind of hard to screw up. Next is Miniature Golf. I'm guessing just a bunch of different shaped courses, and you gotta aim the little pixel ball into the hole, just like you would with traditional mini golf. And speaking of Space Invaders, here it is. This was a game that my uncle bought for me. I remember he got it from a garage sale. He said for like $1. As you'll find it in the Atari video, a lot of these games, you know, didn't hold a resale value very well at the time, and you could go to any garage sale, thrift store, what have you, and pick these games up for $1. Sometimes just a whole box for like $5 just to get rid of them. There was a period of time where these were becoming collectible, and the price is starting to go up. But that since have settled down, and with the few exception of rare games, this is they're back to normal prices. Circus Atari. I did play this. I remember it, but I don't remember the types of games it had. Did need paddle controllers, unfortunately, so I won't be able to test it out just yet. But I do remember this game. I just don't remember anything about it. Slot Machine. $10. I'll bet you $10 if you can guess what this game's about. I think I played this, but I don't think I had it. I think it was my cousin's game. I guess it's a slot machine game. I mean, and here we have another copy of Donkey Kong, because you can never have too much Donkey Kong. I don't even know why I put that. Next we have Kangaroo. Another arcade knockout from Atari. Don't think I played it, but judging by the cover art, it's probably some sort of kangaroo boxing type game. Maybe you gotta fight your way through the zoo or something, I don't know. This game is Mega Mania. Looks like some sort of space type game. Kind of looks like the Enterprise from Star Trek, but it's a vertical scrolling shooter. Label has definitely seen better days. I'll definitely have to print out a new label for that. So be it. I don't think I ever played it. Next we have Asteroids, another game I had for the Atari 2600. Anyone who hasn't played Asteroids, you guide a little ship around the screen blasting asteroids. If one hits you, you lose a life. Occasionally a UFO would fly by. Label's seen better days. I'm going to have to redo that one as well. And here is one of the crappiest games of all time, in my opinion, and probably many people's opinion. E.T. This game was rushed, and I'll have more about it. I might even make a whole separate video about it, because the story is just insane. But this was rushed, and it was just garbage. To the point where they had so many unsold copies, they dumped them in a landfill and buried them to be forgotten. A few years back, someone did a documentary where they found them and dug them back up, and a lot of them were in decent shape, but not all of them. So next we have skiing, and it's a vertical scrolling game where you just ski down the hill and try to reach the goal. If you ever played Ski Free on Windows 3.1, basically the same game for the most part. Next we have another, like I mentioned earlier, Pac-Man. One of the most popular Atari games, well, one of the highest sold, I believe, but it was not a good port at all. Someone years back, I forget, it was in the 90s or early 2000s, they actually redid a version of Pac-Man that was a lot closer to the arcade version on the Atari 2600. You know, it's amazing. There's a lot of tinkerers out there still making games for these older systems, and because they've had so many years to study these things, they can do things with these systems that could not be done initially. So I'll see if I can get a copy of that and play with that. Haunted House, I don't think I played it. I don't know anything about it, so I'm not going to talk about it too much, but I'm going to guess it's another one of these adventure games, probably a mystery adventure game. This one is Vanguard. I think I played this. The name sounds really familiar, but I don't remember much about it. I'll have to look it up. Looks like someone did open this cartridge up, though, because they the label is ripped right where the screw is. So this will be another one I can open up in the Atari video to inspect the insides. Not sure why they opened it up. Maybe they were curious. Maybe they need to fix something. We'll find out. And the last game is Dig Dug. I don't believe I played it on the Atari. I'm pretty sure the first time I played it was on the Nintendo. But it's Dig Dug. You dig into the ground, blow up enemies, defeat all the enemies on screen, and go on to the next level. Real basic game. So that's it for the Atari games, but there are some manuals and booklets. Let's take a look at them briefly, and maybe I'll do more in-depth look in the actual official video. We've got Decathlon official rules. I don't think I actually have this game. Or is it the one without the label? No, I don't think that game is included in here, so that's interesting. Pac-Man. Needed this to figure it out. Not really, I mean everyone knew how to play Pac-Man at the time. The manual for Defender, which again I don't have. Super Challenge Baseball. Don't have this game either. Interesting. Let's see. Miniature Golf manual. Very basic. In fact, it's got some screenshots of the gameplay, so yeah. Simple game. Missile Command, I don't have this one either in this package, so maybe they sold some of these games in a different lot and just threw random manuals in. And 3D Tic-Tac-Toe. So we'll and then we'll look at that in Space Invaders, which I do have. So his manuals aren't actually in that bad of a shape considering the age of them. They're not yellowed too much. Very minimal creasing and scuffs. And as I mentioned in the intro video for my channel, my uncle was subscribed to a bunch of different catalogs, and here's one of them that would show off current and future games. And oh look, a screenshot of Superman, and just as I thought, it looks bad. But yeah, so I'll go more in depth with these catalogs in the Atari video. I might have to make that into a multi-parter. There's so much to talk about. We'll see. Then Activision also had a catalog for games that they released on the Atari and the Intellivision. Side note, there was also a version of the Atari 2600 that was released under the Sears name, known as Telegames. Same system and everything, but for whatever reason Sears wanted their own, and so they have one.
Sure. And the last catalog and the last part of the Atari bundle is this one, where again they talk about the different games and different types of categories for games. Pac-Man, Circus Atari. Oh, Circus Atari. I mentioned that earlier that I didn't remember what it was about. Here's a screenshot of it. I'm guessing that's a trapeze type game, not sure. So, and that's it for Atari, and we'll move on to the next item. And the next thing we have is from Amazon, and I pretty much know what this is going to be, but let's open it up together and find out. Why? It's the Genesis Mini. If you've seen the Mini Nintendos and the Mini Super Nintendos in the stores over the past couple of years, then you'll probably know what this is all about. It's Sega's version of the Sega Genesis, but in the mini format. It's got 40-some games on there, plus 2 additional ones that were announced and that have really never been released before on the Genesis. They wanted to kind of, sweeten the deal a little bit. So let's take a look and see what's inside. Now, I don't remember if this is how the original Genesis was packaged. I doubt it. But it's still, packaged pretty well. It comes with a USB plug and a cable, similar to the kind you would use with an older Android phone, or most devices nowadays, it seems. Comes with 2 controllers, although these are the 3-button controllers instead of the 6-button controllers that came out later on in life. And the reason Sega did this instead of the 6-button controller is for nostalgia reasons. However, they included some games on here that all but require the 6 buttons, including, where is it at here? Are these in alphabetical order? Yeah. Street Fighter 2. It's almost impossible to play without a 6-button controller. And I could have sworn there was one more, but it slips my mind right now. So we'll have to, I guess, try it later. HDMI cable, because you could never have too many of those. Some simple instructions. And of course, the Mini itself. And it looks like a little Sega Genesis. Reset even works, and there's a fake volume slider. USB ports instead of regular Genesis ports. And on the back, HDMI and USB power. The other cool thing about this is that this cover slides off. It doesn't do anything. However, on the original one, there was a connector there that would slide into the Sega CD. Speaking of that, it's something that I'm a little bit bitter about, but nothing I can do. Japan is getting additional add-ons for this thing. A fake Sega CD, a fake 32X, a fake copy of Sonic & Knuckles, and then a copy of Sonic that plugs into the top of Sonic & Knuckles. It's called the Tower of Power, and it was a big joke back when the Genesis was popular, because the thing would be like this tall, and you'd have like power bricks all over the place and everything. I'll link I won't link, I'll just impose a picture in there so you can see what it looks like. But it's like a Japan-only exclusive, and that kind of annoys me, because that would be kind of cool to have as a collector. Whatever, rant over. So let's take a look at the full Genesis so you can see the comparisons. Now this one, the Mini, says high definition graphics, and the very, very first release of the Genesis said that as well. This is a slightly revised version of it, and that's why it doesn't say it on there anymore. Not sure why, but it is what it is. But again, you see the volume slider, which on the original is for the headphone jack. Obviously the Mini doesn't have one, although it's got a little fake headphone jack there, which is kind of good attention to detail. And then again, the actual slot for the Sega CD. So that's the Genesis Mini. I will have a more in-depth review of it as part of the full Genesis video. And so related to the Genesis Mini, essentially, I've got a few other local pickups. First one I'll show off that is directly related to the Genesis Mini is it says an 8-button arcade pad with USB. You'll notice it's got the Sega logo on it. This is made by a company called Retrobit, and it is an officially licensed official product from Sega, a replication of the original 6-button Genesis controller. Now this one says 8-button because this actually includes 2 additional shoulder buttons, because this is also compatible with computers and the Nintendo Switch. Next thing I'm going to show off is for the original Sega Genesis, and that is an HD TV cable by a company called Hyperkin. They make a bunch of different retro products, and this is one of their latest releases. It basically converts the Sega Genesis video signal and audio and converts it to HDMI for your newer TVs. Now, it's not written down anywhere, but people online have pretty much verified that this is converting the RGB video into HDMI. And for those that don't know, RGB video on the Genesis is probably the cleanest, sharpest picture you're going to get out of it, or any legacy console. Now, the cable itself is, just this basic brick with an HDMI cable on one end, and the other end is got a mini DIN connector. It's for the Genesis 2. However, it also comes with an adapter that converts it from the Genesis 2 plug to the Genesis 1 plug. And then it also needs separate power, so it gives you a micro USB to USB cable. Most newer TVs have a USB port on them. You can use that to feed power. Otherwise, you can pick up just any cell phone charger that you have laying around the house, and it should be enough. Now, on the box itself, you'll notice a switch that says 4.3 and 16.9. This basically sets the picture to standard format that the Genesis is compatible with, 4.3, which is kind of like the square shape on your older televisions, whereas 16:9 is more of a widescreen format. And the last thing I'm going to show off, similar to the first controller I showed, this is an actual Sega Genesis 6-button controller. Again, made by Retrobit, but it's an officially sanctioned product by Sega, and this is designed to be used on the Sega Genesis. It comes like this. I don't remember if the originals came in a plastic container or if they were basically, if it was like wrapped in plastic in a cardboard box, but you'll see it's got the regular Genesis plug on it. Even says Sega, and it's the original 6-button controller. Well, technically 7 because it's got the mode button on top. But yeah, this will work with just about any Sega Genesis.
And those are my pickups for September. Sorry for the length of the video, but due to the amount of Atari cartridges I had to show off, I kind of couldn't help it. I am thinking about maybe doing a shortened version of it where I just kind of fast forward through everything and just show key parts. So if you don't want to have to sit through this entire almost hour-long video, I'll have one that's a little shorter. Anyway, did you see anything you like? If you did, leave a comment, and we can maybe talk about it a little bit. Otherwise, that's it. If you like the video overall, leave a thumbs up and subscribe. And if you already subscribed, but you haven't done so yet, hit the little bell icon so that you know about any future videos I release. If you didn't like the video, thumbs down, but please leave a comment explaining why so I can use that to improve my videos in the future. Thanks all, and I'll catch you later.